My daughter-in-law's voice echoed through the phone. Renee, the rent is late. If you don't pay this week, they're throwing us out. You forgot to transfer. I smiled quietly and said, Didn't I warn you? I only help special people. The silence on that line was louder than 3 years of my anger. But let me back up. Let me tell you how a 71-year-old retired teacher from Atlanta went from being a doormat to the woman who made her own son face a judge. My name is Renee Williams, and for 42 years, I thought I knew my boy. I raised Marcus by myself after his daddy walked out when he was 5. I worked 2 jobs, teaching during the day and cleaning offices at night, just to make sure he had what he needed. New shoes every school year, a college fund, a roof that didn't leak. I gave that boy everything I had. When he married Keisha 7 years ago, I was happy. I thought, finally, my son has someone to build a life with. Keisha was pretty, well-spoken, always knew how to dress. She worked in marketing, talked about brands and campaigns and building a portfolio. I didn't understand half of what she said, but she seemed smart, ambitious. I thought she'd be good for Marcus. I was wrong. It started small. Renee, can you lend us $200? We're a little short this month. Then it was $500, then $1,000. Every time, Marcus would call with that apologetic voice. Mama, I know it's a lot to ask, but Keisha's job didn't pay out this month. Or we had an emergency with the car, or the landlord raised the rent and we weren't expecting it. I gave every single time because that's what mothers do, right? You don't let your child suffer if you can help. And I could help. My late husband, Raymond, had left me a small pension, and I'd saved carefully over the years. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable. I had about $47,000 in my savings account, money I'd planned to use for my old age, maybe a little travel, maybe help with the grandchild's education someday. But here's what I didn't know. Keisha had been keeping a list, a detailed, calculated list of every dollar I'd given them, and she wasn't asking Marcus to pay me back. She was planning something bigger. It was 3 years ago when things changed. Raymond had been gone for 8 months. I was still grieving, still trying to figure out how to live in a house that felt too big and too quiet. Marcus and Keisha came over for Sunday dinner, like they did most weeks. I made my usual fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread, and mac and cheese. The kind of meal that takes all afternoon but fills the soul. After dinner, while I was washing dishes, Keisha came into the kitchen. She leaned against the counter, watching me. Renee, she said, her voice sweet as honey, Marcus and I have been talking. We're worried about you. I looked at her, confused. Worried? About what? About you managing your finances. You're getting older, and we don't want you to make any mistakes. What if someone takes advantage of you? What if you forget to pay a bill? I laughed. Baby, I've been managing my own money for 50 years. I think I'm doing just fine. But Keisha didn't laugh. She pulled out a folder, an actual folder, like she had prepared this, and set it on the counter. We think it would be better if Marcus had access to your account, just in case, for emergencies. That's when Marcus walked in. He didn't look at me. He looked at the floor. Mama, it's just a precaution. We're not trying to control you. We just want to make sure you're safe. I should have said no. I should have told them both to get out of my kitchen and my business. But I was tired. I was lonely. And some part of me, some stupid, hopeful part, thought maybe they really did care. So I said yes. The next week, Marcus took me to the bank. I signed the papers that gave him joint access to my checking account. The bank officer, a young black woman with neat braids, looked at me carefully. Miss Williams, are you sure about this? Once someone has joint access, they can withdraw funds without your permission. It's fine, I said. It's my son. She nodded, but I saw something in her eyes, a warning I didn't understand yet. For the first few months, nothing changed. I'd check my account online and everything looked normal, but then I started noticing small things. A $300 withdrawal I didn't make. Another $500 a week later. When I asked Marcus about it, he'd say, "Oh, Mama, remember, you told me I could use it for the car repair." Or, "That was for the groceries I picked up for you." Except I didn't remember saying that, and I bought my own groceries. I started keeping a notebook. Every time I checked my account, I'd write down the balance. And slowly, I watched my savings disappear. $47,000 became $44,000, then $35,000. I confronted Marcus on a Tuesday evening. He came over to check on me, which I now realize meant see if I'd noticed yet. "Marcus," I said, handing him the notebook, "where is my money going?" He barely looked at it. "Mama, you're confused. You've been spending more than you realize." "Don't you dare tell me I'm confused. I've been tracking every dollar. You've taken over $12,000 from me in 6 months. His face went hard. This wasn't the boy I raised. This was someone else. "Mama, Keisha and I have been under a lot of stress. We needed help. You said you'd always be there for us. Being there for you doesn't mean stealing from me. We're not stealing, we're borrowing. We'll pay you back." But they never did. Want to know what happened next? Because what I discovered in the next few months would change everything. And trust me, when Keisha's mother got involved, that's when things got real interesting. Over the next year, I watched my account drain like water through a cracked pipe. Every time I checked, another chunk was gone. $500 here, $800 there, sometimes $1,200 in a single withdrawal. I'd call Marcus, and he'd have an excuse ready. The transmission went out. Keisha's car got towed. We had to pay an emergency dental bill. I stopped believing him around the $25,000 mark. But here's what really broke my heart. I'd see them on Facebook, posting pictures from restaurants I couldn't afford. Keisha showing off new purses, new shoes, talking about treating herself. Marcus posting about the weekend trip they took to Miami. Meanwhile, I was cutting coupons and deciding whether I could afford my blood pressure medication that month. I called him one night, my voice shaking. "Marcus, I saw the pictures from your trip. You told me you didn't have money for rent." "Mama, that trip was a gift. Keisha's company paid for it." "Then why did you take $2,000 from my account the day before you left?" Silence. Then, "I don't have to explain every little thing to you. You're being paranoid." Paranoid. That's what he called it when I noticed my own money disappearing. The worst part? Keisha's mother got involved. Her name was Diane, and she was one of those women who thought having a nice car and designer sunglasses made her better than everybody else. She'd never liked me. At the wedding, she'd made it clear she thought Marcus was marrying down by having a school teacher for a mother instead of someone with real money. One Sunday, they all came over for dinner, Marcus, Keisha, and Diane. I'd made a roast, spent half my grocery budget on it because I was still trying to show them I cared. We were sitting around the table when Diane looked at me and said, "Renate, I hope you know how lucky you are." I looked up from my plate. Lucky? Yes. Lucky that Marcus and Keisha still make time for you. At your age, living alone, you could be in some nursing home somewhere. But they check on you, they help you manage your money. You should be grateful. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. "Grateful?" "Grateful," she repeated, dabbing her mouth with my good napkin. "Some children abandon their elderly parents completely. But Marcus is a good son. He's making sure you're taken care of." Keisha smiled that sweet smile of hers. "Mama Diane's right, Renate. We want what's best for you." I looked at Marcus, my son, the boy I'd raised to know right from wrong, the boy I'd taught to respect his elders, to work hard, to be honest. And he was sitting there, nodding along while his wife and mother-in-law told me I should be grateful they were stealing from me. That's when something inside me shifted. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just smiled and said, "You're absolutely right, Diane. I should be grateful." She looked surprised, like she'd expected a fight. "Well, good. I'm glad you understand." After they left, I sat in my living room and cried for the first time since Raymond died. Not because I was sad, because I was done being weak. The next morning, I got up early and did something I should have done a year ago. I went to the bank. The same young woman with the braids was there. When she saw me, her expression changed. "Mrs. Williams, how can I help you?" "I need to open a new account," I said, "one that nobody else has access to." She nodded slowly. "And your existing account?" "I want to transfer everything that's left, every single penny, into the new account. Then I want to close the old one." "What about the joint access holder, your son?" "Especially him." She typed on her computer for a moment, then looked up at me. "Mrs. Williams, I have to ask, is everything okay? Are you safe?" For the first time in months, I felt strong. "I'm about to be." We opened the new account. There was $14,600 left of my original $47,000. Marcus and Keisha had taken $32,400 in less than 18 months. But that $14,600 was mine, and nobody was touching it. Then I did something else. I asked to see the transaction history for the old account. Every withdrawal, every transfer, every purchase. The banker printed it all out for me. 15 pages of my money going to pay for their lifestyle while I ate rice and beans. "Mrs. Williams," the banker said quietly, "you know you can report this, right, to the police? This is financial exploitation of an elderly person." "Not yet," I said, folding the papers and putting them in my purse. "But soon." I went home and did something I hadn't done since I was teaching. I made a plan. A detailed plan, a step-by-step plan. I got a notebook, a new one, not the one I'd been using to track my account. And I wrote down everything. Every lie Marcus told me, every withdrawal I didn't authorize, every time Keisha or Diane made me feel small. Then I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. My nephew, Jerome. He was a paralegal in downtown Atlanta, worked at a firm that handled elder law. When I told him what happened, there was a long silence on the phone. "Auntie Renate," he said finally, his voice tight with anger, "they stole over $30,000 from you?" $32,400. "And you have documentation?" 15 pages of bank statements, plus a notebook with dates and conversations. "Auntie, I can help you, but I need to ask, are you sure you want to do this? Marcus is your son. This could mean criminal charges." I thought about that question a long time. About the boy who used to bring me dandelions from the yard, the teenager who'd hugged me when he graduated high school, the man who'd promised at Raymond's funeral that he'd always take care of me. Then I thought about Diane's voice. "You should be grateful." "I'm sure," I said. Jerome told me what to do next. First, don't tell them anything. Let them think everything is normal. Second, document every interaction from now on. If they call asking for money, record it if it's legal in Georgia, which it is. Third, gather any evidence of their lifestyle. The Facebook posts, the pictures, the receipts if I had any. "We're building a case here," Jerome said. "Not just for your money back, but to make sure they can't do this to anyone else." I hung up the phone and looked around my small living room, at the pictures on the wall of Marcus as a baby, as a child, as a young man, at the life I'd built by myself. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Power. But I wasn't ready to use it yet. First, I needed to let them think they'd won. I didn't tell Marcus about the new account. I didn't tell him I'd moved my money. I just waited. And let me tell you, waiting was the hardest part. Every Sunday, they'd still come over for dinner. Every Sunday, I'd cook and smile and pretend like everything was fine. Like I didn't know they were checking the old account, seeing that balance sitting at zero, wondering where my money went. It took 2 weeks before Marcus called. "Mama, I need to talk to you about something." "What is it, baby?" I kept my voice light, innocent. "I was checking the account, making sure everything's okay, and it says the balance is zero. Did you move the money somewhere?" "Oh, that old account. Yes, honey, I closed it." Silence. Then, "You closed it?" "Mm-hmm. The bank lady said it was better to have a new account. Something about security. You know I don't understand all that computer stuff." "Where's the money now?" "In my new account. Why, do you need something?" Another silence. Longer this time. "No, Mama. I was just checking." But I knew what he was really thinking. He was thinking about how to get access to the new account, how to convince me to add his name again. And sure enough, the next Sunday, both he and Keisha showed up with Diane. This time, I was ready. I'd made a simple meal, spaghetti and salad, nothing fancy. When Diane saw it, she wrinkled her nose. "Is this all you're serving, Renate?" "It's what I can afford," I said sweetly. On my fixed income." Keisha exchanged a look with Marcus. They sat down and we ate in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Keisha cleared her throat. "Renate, Marcus told me you closed your old bank account." "I did." "That wasn't very smart. What if something happens to you? What if you have an emergency and can't access your money?" I took a sip of water. "I can access it just fine, baby." "But what if you can't?" She leaned forward, her voice dripping with fake concern. "What if you fall and hit your head? What if you have a stroke? Marcus needs to be able to help you." Diane nodded. "Keisha's right. At your age, anything can happen. You need to be practical." I looked at all of them. My son, who wouldn't meet my eyes. His wife, with her designer nails and her designer lies. And his mother-in-law, who thought I was too stupid to see what they were doing. "You know what?" I said slowly. "You all are absolutely right. I should think about emergencies." They perked up. Marcus finally looked at me. "So, you'll add me back to the account?" "Oh no, honey, I'm going to do something even better. I'm going to make arrangements with my nephew, Jerome. He's a paralegal, very smart. He's going to help me set up what they call a power of attorney, but only if something actually happens to me. That way my money stays safe, and if I need help, someone trustworthy can step in." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "Your nephew?" Keisha's voice was sharp now, the sweetness gone. "You barely even talk to Jerome." "Well, we've been talking a lot lately. He's been so helpful, teaching me about elder law and financial protection and all sorts of things. Did you know that taking money from an elderly person's account without permission is actually a crime? It's called financial exploitation. Jerome taught me that." Marcus's face went pale. "Mama, what are you saying?" "I'm not saying anything, baby. I'm just learning. You know how I love to learn new things." Diane stood up, her chair scraping against my floor. "Renate, I think you're being very ungrateful right now. After everything Marcus and Keisha have done for you." "Like what?" I interrupted, my voice still calm. "What exactly have they done for me?" "They check on you. They help you with your bills." "I pay my own bills, Diane. I always have." "They make sure you're not being taken advantage of." "Do they?" I looked directly at Marcus. "Do they really?" Nobody answered. The silence stretched out like taffy, thick and uncomfortable. Finally, Marcus grabbed his jacket. We should go. I agree. Drive safe now. After they left, I sat in my kitchen and laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. Because I could see it now, the panic in their eyes. They knew I was onto them. They just didn't know what I was going to do about it. Jerome called me that night. Auntie, I got the documents you asked for. The power of attorney, the living will, everything. But I also want to talk to you about filing a police report. Not yet, Jerome. I want to wait a little longer. Why? The longer you wait, the harder it might be to get your money back. Because I want them to panic. I want them to make mistakes. And trust me, baby, they will. And I was right. 2 days later, Keisha called me. Not Marcus, Keisha. Her voice was different this time. Harder. No pretense of sweetness. Renate, we need to talk. About what, sweetheart? About this attitude you've been having lately. Marcus is very hurt. You basically accused him of stealing from you. I didn't accuse him of anything. I just stated facts. What facts? The fact that over $32,000 disappeared from my account while he had access to it. She sucked in a breath. You've been keeping track? Every single penny, baby. That money was borrowed. We were going to pay you back. Borrowed? You never asked to borrow it. You just took it. We're family. Family helps each other. You're right. Family does help each other. But family doesn't steal. Family doesn't lie. And family definitely doesn't tell someone they should be grateful while robbing them blind. Nobody robbed you $32,400. I have the bank statements. I have dates. I have amounts. I have every lie Marcus told me about where that money was going. So let me ask you something. If you weren't robbing me, what would you call it? The phone went quiet. Then, you're going to regret this, old woman. Is that a threat? It's a promise. You want to go to war with your own son? Fine, but don't be surprised when you end up in a nursing home somewhere, all alone with nobody who cares about you. My hand tightened on the phone. Keisha, let me tell you something. I raised my son by myself. I worked 2 jobs to give him everything. I sacrificed my whole life for that boy. So if he's the kind of man who'd put his own mother in a home for asking where her money went, then I didn't do as good a job raising him as I thought I did, and that's on me. You think you can threaten me? Baby, I was teaching teenagers in inner city Atlanta for 30 years. I've been threatened by people a lot scarier than you. So go ahead. Do your worst. But know this. I've got documentation. I've got witnesses, and I've got a lawyer. What do you have? A closet full of purses you bought with my money? I hung up before she could answer. My heart was pounding, but I felt good, strong, like the woman I used to be before grief and loneliness made me weak. Jerome called an hour later. Auntie, I got a very interesting call from a woman named Keisha Williams, asking about you. She wanted to know if you'd been diagnosed with dementia. My blood ran cold. She what? She said she was concerned about your mental health, asked if there was any way to have you declared incompetent. That snake. Don't worry. I told her I couldn't discuss client information. But Auntie, this is serious. They're trying to build a case that you're not mentally fit. If they succeed, they get control of everything. Exactly. I closed my eyes. This was bigger than I thought. They weren't just stealing from me. They were trying to erase me completely. Jerome, I said slowly. How fast can we move on this? How fast do you need? Jerome met me at a coffee shop downtown the next morning. He brought a lawyer with him, a woman named Patricia Chin, mid-50s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She was a partner at the firm, specialized in elder abuse cases. Mrs. Williams, she said, shaking my hand firmly, Jerome's told me about your situation. I want you to know that what happened to you is far more common than people realize, and it's absolutely prosecutable. We sat down, and I spread out everything I'd brought: the bank statements, my notebook, screenshots of Facebook posts showing Marcus and Keisha on vacation while I was missing meals to make my budget stretch. Patricia went through every page, her expression getting harder with each one. This is textbook financial exploitation, she said finally. They had access to your account, they made unauthorized withdrawals, they used the money for personal expenses, and they lied to you about it. The fact that Keisha is now trying to have you declared incompetent makes this even worse. It shows intent to continue the exploitation. What are my options? I asked. Patricia leaned back in her chair. We have several paths. Civil court, we sue them for the money back plus damages. Criminal court, we file a police report for elder abuse and fraud. Or both. What would you recommend? Both, she said without hesitation. Civil court gets your money back. Criminal court makes sure they face real consequences. And Mrs. Williams, I'm going to be honest with you. If we don't act now, if we let them establish this narrative that you're mentally unfit, you could lose everything: your autonomy, your money, your ability to make decisions about your own life. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. How long will this take? Civil case, probably 6 months to a year. Criminal case could be faster if the DA's office takes it seriously. And given the amount involved and the attempted manipulation, I think they will. Let's do it, I said. All of it. Patricia nodded. Then I need you to do something difficult. I need you to not contact Marcus or Keisha directly. Don't answer their calls. Don't engage. Everything from now on goes through me. Can you do that? I thought about all the Sunday dinners, all the times I'd cooked for them, welcomed them, loved them despite everything. Yes, I said. I can do that. We filed the police report that afternoon. The detective who took my statement was a black woman about my age, with gray in her hair and sympathy in her eyes. Mrs. Williams, I want you to know I see this all the time. Children who think their parents' money is theirs for the taking. It's disgraceful. Will they be arrested? That depends on what the DA decides. But with this amount and this documentation, I'd say there's a strong case. She closed her notebook. I'm sorry this happened to you, but I'm glad you're fighting back. The next few days were strange. My phone rang constantly. Marcus, Keisha, even Diane. I didn't answer. I checked the voicemails later, and they ranged from apologetic, "Mama, please, let's talk about this," to angry, "You're making a huge mistake," to threatening, "You're going to regret this." I saved every single one. Jerome called me on Friday. "Auntie, they know. Marcus just called the office asking for you. He said you weren't answering your phone and he was worried." I told him I couldn't give out client information. How did he sound? Scared. Good, I thought. Let him be scared for once. The civil lawsuit was filed the following Monday. Patricia had it delivered by a process server. Marcus got served at his job, Keisha at hers. I wasn't there to see it, but Jerome told me later that Marcus called him immediately, shouting about how I was destroying the family. How could I do this to my own son? Didn't I love him anymore? What did you tell him? I told him to get a lawyer. That Sunday, I stayed home. For the first time in 7 years, I didn't cook dinner for Marcus and Keisha. I didn't set the table. I didn't wait by the door. Instead, I made myself a simple meal: baked chicken, green beans, a small salad, and I ate it slowly, in peace, in my own house. My phone rang at exactly 6 p.m. Marcus. I let it go to voicemail. Mama, where are you? We're at the house. The door is locked. Are you okay? Please call me back. Please. At 6:30, another call. This time it was Keisha. Renate, we know you're in there. Open the door. We need to talk about this lawsuit. You can't actually think we stole from you. We're family. Family doesn't sue each other. This is insane. You're being manipulated by Jerome. He probably just wants your money for himself. Open the door. I sat on my couch listening to her bang on my door, and I didn't move. Eventually, they left. Patricia called me that night. Mrs. Williams, I need to prepare you for something. The criminal investigation is moving forward, and there's going to be a hearing. The DA wants to pursue charges for exploitation of an elder person and theft by deception. Marcus and Keisha will both be charged. When? Preliminary hearing is in 3 weeks. You'll need to testify. My stomach clenched. I'll have to face them in court? Yes, but Mrs. Williams, I'll be right there with you, and so will the truth. Those 3 weeks were the longest of my life. I barely slept. I kept rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd hold myself together when I had to look my son in the eye and tell a judge what he'd done to me. Aurora, my neighbor from across the street, came to check on me one afternoon. She was one of the few people who knew what was happening. Renate, how are you holding up? I'm tired, Aurora. She sat down next to me on the porch. I've known you for 20 years. I watched you raise that boy by yourself. I watched you work yourself to the bone for him. And I'm going to tell you something. You are doing the right thing. Am I? He's my son. And you're his mother. That should have meant something to him. It should have protected you, not made you a target. She took my hand. You taught your students to stand up for themselves, didn't you? Every single day. Then practice what you preached, baby. Stand up. The day of the hearing arrived. Jerome picked me up at 8 a.m. I'd put on my best church dress, navy blue with white trim, and the pearl earrings Raymond had given me on our 30th anniversary. I wanted to look dignified, strong, like the women I used to be. The courthouse was downtown, big and imposing. Patricia met me up the entrance. Ready? She asked. As I'll ever be. We walked through security, took the elevator to the 3rd floor, and entered courtroom C. It was smaller than I expected. Wood-paneled walls, rows of benches, an American flag in the corner. And there, sitting on the opposite side with their lawyer, were Marcus and Keisha. Marcus looked terrible. He'd lost weight, had dark circles under his eyes. When he saw me walk in, he stood up halfway like he wanted to come to me, then sat back down. Keisha stared straight ahead, her jaw tight, her hands clasped in her lap. Diane was there too, sitting behind them, dressed like she was going to a gala instead of a court hearing. When our eyes met, she gave me a look of pure hatred. The bailiff called out, "All rise. The Honorable Judge Morrison presiding." Judge Morrison was a black man, maybe 60, with gray hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. He sat down, reviewed some papers, and then looked up at all of us. This is a preliminary hearing for the case of the state versus Marcus Williams and Keisha Williams, charges of financial exploitation of an elder person and theft by deception. Is the state ready? The prosecutor, a young man in a sharp suit, stood up. Yes, Your Honor. Defense? Marcus's lawyer, an older white man with a southern drawl, stood. Yes, Your Honor. Mrs. Renate Williams, the judge said, looking directly at me, you're the complainant in this case. Please come forward. My legs felt like jelly, but I stood. Jerome squeezed my shoulder as I walked past him. I made my way to the witness stand, placed my hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And then I looked at my son, and I began to tell my story. The prosecutor approached me, slowly, giving me time to settle into the chair. Mrs. Williams, can you tell the court about your relationship with the defendants? I took a breath. My voice came out stronger than I expected. Marcus is my son. I raised him by myself after his father left when he was 5 years old. Keisha is his wife. They've been married 7 years. And did there come a time when Marcus asked to have access to your bank account? Yes. About 3 years ago, after my husband Raymond passed away. They told me it was for emergencies, in case something happened to me. And did you grant him that access? I did. I trusted him. He's my son. The prosecutor nodded. What happened after you gave him access to your account? I looked down at my hands, then back up. Money started disappearing. At first, it was small amounts, a few hundred here and there. Then it got bigger, thousands at a time. Did you ask Marcus about these withdrawals? Every single time. He always had an excuse. Car repairs, medical bills, rent. But then I'd see on Facebook, they were going out to expensive restaurants, taking trips. Keisha was buying designer purses, things I couldn't afford anymore because my money was disappearing. How much money was taken from your account in total? $32,400. There was a murmur in the courtroom. The judge looked up from his notes. Marcus dropped his head into his hands. The prosecutor pulled out my bank statements, already admitted as evidence. Your Honor, these statements show systematic withdrawals over 18 months, totaling exactly the amount Mrs. Williams stated. The prosecution will show that none of this money was used for Mrs. Williams' benefit or care. Instead, it funded the defendant's lifestyle, while Mrs. Williams struggled to afford basic necessities and medication. Marcus's lawyer stood up. Objection, Your Honor. That's argumentative. Sustained. Counsel, stick to the facts. Yes, Your Honor. The prosecutor turned back to me. Mrs. Williams, after you discovered the extent of the missing funds, what did you do? I opened a new account and transferred what little I had left. Then I closed the old account so they couldn't take anything more. And how much was left? $14,600 out of my original $47,000. So they took nearly 70% of your life savings? Yes. And what happened when Marcus discovered you'd closed the account? I allowed myself a small, bitter smile. He called me right away, asked where the money was. When I told him I'd moved it to a new account, he wanted to know why. I told him it was the bank recommended it for security reasons. Did he ask to be added to the new account? Not directly, but his wife did. She came to my house with Marcus and her mother, Diane, and told me I was being foolish, that I should be grateful they were helping me. That's the word they used. Grateful. That they were taking my money? Objection. Marcus's lawyer was on his feet, leading the witness. Withdrawn. The prosecutor smiled slightly. Mrs. Williams, in your own words, what did they say you should be grateful for? Diane, that's Keisha's mother, she said I should be grateful that Marcus and Keisha still made time for me, that some children abandoned their elderly parents completely, but Marcus was a good son because he was helping me manage my money. Those were his exact words. I saw Diane shift uncomfortably in her seat. The judge was watching her now. Did there come a time when the defendants tried to have you declared mentally incompetent? My throat tightened. Yes, my nephew Jerome is a paralegal. Keisha called his office asking about me, wanting to know if I'd been diagnosed with dementia. She asked if there was a way to have me declared incompetent so they could manage my affairs. But you have not been diagnosed with dementia or any cognitive impairment, correct? Correct. My doctor says I'm sharp as a tack. A few people in the gallery chuckled softly. Thank you, Mrs. Williams. No further questions. The judge looked at Marcus's lawyer. Cross-examination? The lawyer stood, buttoning his jacket. He was one of those men who smiled too much, trying to seem friendly when he was really a shark. Mrs. Williams, you say my clients took your money without permission, but isn't it true that you gave Marcus access to your account willingly? I gave him access for emergencies, not to fund vacations. But you did give him access. Yes. And isn't it true that Marcus helped you with many things? Grocery shopping, home repairs, checking on you regularly. He came for Sunday dinner every week. I cooked for him. So he spent time with you, helped you, took care of you. Doesn't that sound like a loving son? I looked directly at Marcus when I answered. A loving son doesn't steal from his mother. A loving son doesn't lie to her face. And a loving son definitely doesn't try to have her declared crazy when she asks where her money went. Objection. The lawyer's friendly demeanor cracked. Your Honor, the witness is being argumentative. Withdrawn. The prosecutor smiled slightly. Mrs. Williams, you're 71 years old. Isn't it possible you simply forgot some of the conversations about money, that you gave Marcus access to those funds and forgot about it? There it was, the incompetence argument. Sir, I was a teacher for 30 years. I managed classrooms of 30 children at a time, kept track of hundreds of students' grades, wrote lesson plans, handled budgets. I managed my own household for 50 years. I raised a child by myself while working 2 jobs. So, no, I did not forget $32,000. Someone in the gallery said, "Mm-hmm." The judge glanced up, but didn't reprimand them. The lawyer tried a different angle. Isn't it true that you and your son had an understanding that because you'd helped him throughout his life, he had a right to access those funds when he needed them? I helped him throughout his life because I'm his mother. That's what mothers do. But I never told him he could take my retirement savings. I never told him he could leave me choosing between groceries and blood pressure medication while he went to Miami. But family helps family, don't they, Mrs. Williams? Isn't that what you taught your son? I taught my son a lot of things. I taught him honesty, integrity, respect. Apparently, I failed. My voice broke on that last word. I hadn't meant for it to, but the emotion was real. I looked at Marcus, really looked at him, and for just a moment, I saw my little boy, the one who used to bring me dandelions, the one who had cried in my arms when his daddy left, the one who'd promised at Raymond's funeral that he'd always take care of me. I failed. I repeat it now, quieter. Because the son I raised would never have done this to me. Marcus was crying, silent tears running down his face. Keisha's hand was on his arm, but she was staring straight ahead, her jaw clenched so tight I thought her teeth might crack. The lawyer must have seen he wasn't getting anywhere. No further questions, Your Honor. I stepped down from the witness stand on shaky legs. Jerome helped me back to my seat. Patricia leaned over and whispered, "You did perfectly." But I didn't feel perfect. I felt hollow. The prosecutor called his next witness, the bank officer, the young woman with braids who'd helped me. She testified about the account activity, the unusual withdrawal patterns, how she'd warned me when I added Marcus to the account. Then came the detective who'd taken my police report. Then Jerome, who testified about Keisha's phone call asking about my mental competency. The evidence piled up like bricks in the wall. Each testimony, each document, each bank statement built a picture that was undeniable. Finally, the judge looked at Marcus and Keisha. Would the defendants like to testify? Their lawyer whispered urgently to them. Marcus started to stand, but the lawyer pulled him back down. No, Your Honor. The defense rests. Judge Morrison reviewed his notes for what felt like an eternity. The courtroom was completely silent, except for the ticking of the clock on the wall. Based on the evidence presented, I find probable cause to bind both defendants over for trial on all charges. Bond is set at $25,000 each. Trial date will be set within 90 days. The gavel came down with a sharp crack. It was over. The preliminary hearing, at least, but the real trial was still coming. As we filed out of the courtroom, Diane blocked my path. "You're destroying your own family," she hissed. "What kind of mother does this to her child?" I looked at her. This woman who'd sat at my table, eaten my food, and told me I should be grateful while her daughter robbed me blind, and I felt nothing but pity. The kind of mother who taught her son that actions have consequences. You should try it sometime. The weeks leading up to the trial were strange. I'd wake up every morning in my quiet house and make coffee the way Raymond used to, strong with just a little cream. I'd sit at the kitchen table and look at the empty chair across from me, where Marcus used to sit when he was a boy, eating cereal before school, telling me about his day. Some mornings I'd cry, not because I regretted what I was doing, but because I mourned who I thought my son was. Patricia called me every few days with updates. They're trying to negotiate a plea deal, she told me one Tuesday afternoon. Their lawyer knows they're going to lose at trial. The evidence is too strong. What kind of deal? They pay back the full amount plus damages. Marcus does community service. Keisha gets probation. No jail time for either of them. I was silent for a long moment. And if I say no to the deal? Then we go to trial. And if we win, which we will, they could both face prison time. 5 to 10 years for this level of elder exploitation. What do you think I should do? Patricia's voice was careful. Mrs. Williams, I can't make this decision for you. Legally, we have them, but emotionally, this is your son. Only you can decide what justice looks like for you. I told her I needed time to think. That Sunday, Aurora came over with a sweet potato pie. We sat on my porch, watching the neighborhood kids ride bikes up and down the street. Have you decided? She asked. About the plea deal? Mm-hmm. Part of me wants to see them in prison, I admitted. Part of me wants them to suffer like I suffered, to know what it feels like to have everything taken from you. And the other part? The other part remembers changing Marcus's diapers, teaching him to read, sitting up with him when he had nightmares. That part still loves him, Aurora, even after everything. She cut us each a slice of pie. Love and consequences aren't enemies, Renate. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone face what they've done. I was still thinking about that when my doorbell rang 3 days later. It was a Thursday evening, just after 7. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, Marcus was standing there, alone. Mama, he said, his voice breaking, please, can I come in? Every instinct told me to slam the door. Patricia had told me not to talk to him without her present. But this was my son, the boy I'd raised, and he looked broken. You have 5 minutes, I said, stepping aside. He came in slowly, looking around the living room like he was seeing it for the first time. He sat on the edge of the couch, his hands clasped between his knees. I sat in Raymond's old recliner, the one I still couldn't bring myself to get rid of. Keisha doesn't know I'm here, he started. She'd kill me if she knew. Then why are you here? Because I need you to know I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Not because I got caught, not because of the trial, but because of what I did to you. I waited. I'd heard his apologies before. Mama, I don't have any excuses. Keisha wanted things, nice things, expensive things, and I wanted to give them to her. At first, I really did think I was borrowing. I thought I'd pay you back. But then 1 month turned into 6 months, and 6 months turned into a year, and it just kept going. And every time you asked about the money, I'd lie. And every lie made it easier to tell the next one. You took $32,000 from me, Marcus. I know. You let me skip meals, skip medication. You watched me struggle while you went on vacation. I know. His voice was barely a whisper now. And when I finally stood up for myself, Keisha tried to have me declared incompetent. She tried to make people think I was crazy. That wasn't my idea, but you let it happen. My voice rose for the first time. You stood there and let your wife attack your mother. You didn't defend me. You didn't stop her. You just let it happen because it was convenient for you. Marcus's face crumpled. I was weak. I am weak. Keisha, she's so strong, so sure of herself. And I wanted her to be happy. I wanted her to think I was successful. So you stole from your mother to impress your wife? Yes. He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. And I hate myself for it. Every single day I wake up and I hate what I've become. I hate what I hurt you. I hate that I threw away everything you taught me for someone who... He stopped. For someone who what? For someone who doesn't even love me. Not really. When the arrest happened, when the bail was set, you know who paid it? Not Keisha's mother, even though she has plenty of money. Not Keisha's family, not our friends. I had to take out a loan. And the whole time Keisha kept saying this was all your fault, that you were the one tearing the family apart. She never once said she was sorry, never once took responsibility. And what did you say? At first I agreed with her, because that was easier than facing what I'd done. But Mama, these past few weeks, sitting in that courtroom, hearing you testify, seeing what I did to you laid out in black and white, he shook his head. I'm not the man you raised me to be, and I don't know if I can ever be that man again, but I needed you to know I'm sorry. Even if you never forgive me, even if I go to prison, I needed you to know. I sat there, looking at my son, really looking at him. He'd lost weight, his clothes hung loose on his frame. There were gray hairs at his temples I'd never noticed before. When had he gotten old? Marcus, do you remember when you were 8 years old and you stole a candy bar from the corner store? He looked confused. What? You stole a candy bar. Mr. Henderson called me at work, told me what happened. Do you remember what I did? You made me go back and apologize, made me pay for it with my allowance, made me work at the store for a week to make up for it. Do you know why? To teach me stealing was wrong. No. I leaned forward. I already knew you knew stealing was wrong. I did it to teach you that actions have consequences, that when you hurt someone, even if it's a small hurt, you have to make it right. Not just say sorry, make it right. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I can't make this right, can I? There's no amount of work, no amount of sorry that fixes this. No, I said softly. There isn't. So what happens now? Now you face the consequences. You take responsibility, not because I'm forcing you to, but because it's the right thing to do. And if I do that, if I accept whatever punishment comes, is there any chance you could forgive me someday? I thought about that question for a long time. About the little boy with the dandelions, about the teenager who'd hugged me at his graduation, about the man who'd promised at his father's funeral to take care of me, about all the versions of Marcus I'd loved over the years. And then I thought about the man who'd stolen from me, who lied to me, who let his wife try to destroy me. I don't know, I finally said. I honestly don't know. Marcus nodded slowly. He stood up, wiped his face with his sleeve. He walked toward the door, then turned back. Mama? Yes? Thank you for everything you did for me, for raising me right even if I forgot the lessons, for giving me chances I didn't deserve, for being the strongest woman I've ever known. His voice cracked. I'm sorry I didn't appreciate it until I'd already lost it. After he left, I sat in Raymond's chair for a long time, staring at nothing. My phone rang. It was Patricia. Mrs. Williams, their lawyer just called. Marcus wants to plead guilty. No deal, no negotiation. He wants to accept full responsibility and let the judge decide his sentence. Keisha is furious. She still wants the plea deal, but Marcus is refusing. What does that mean? It means the trial might not happen. The judge will sentence him based on the charges and his plea. He could get anything from probation to 10 years. After I hung up, I realized something. Marcus had finally learned the lesson I tried to teach him when he was 8 years old. Actions have consequences. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is face them. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for a Friday morning in late September. The air had that crisp feel to it, the kind that meant summer was finally letting go. I wore the same navy dress I'd worn to the preliminary hearing, the same pearl earrings. Aurora offered to come with me, but I told her I needed to do this alone. That wasn't entirely true. Jerome and Patricia were with me, but emotionally, I was alone in a way I'd never been before. The courtroom was less crowded this time. No Diane. Apparently, she'd washed her hands of the whole situation once it became clear her daughter might face consequences. Keisha sat on one side with her lawyer, her face a mask of barely controlled rage. Marcus sat on the other side with his lawyer, looking small and defeated. They'd separated. Jerome had told me that Keisha filed for divorce 2 weeks after Marcus decided to plead guilty. She blamed him for everything, claimed she'd been manipulated, said she never knew where the money was really coming from. Her lawyer was still trying to get her charges reduced. But Marcus had pled guilty to all charges: elder exploitation, theft by deception, and fraud. He'd refused the plea deal, refused to minimize what he'd done, and now he was facing whatever punishment Judge Morrison deemed appropriate. All rise. We stood as Judge Morrison entered. He sat, arranged his papers, and looked out at all of us. This is a sentencing hearing from Marcus Williams, who was pled guilty to charges of financial exploitation of an elderly person, theft by deception, and fraud. Mr. Williams, please stand. Marcus stood. His suit was too big for him now. His hands were shaking. Mr. Williams, before I pass sentence, I want to understand something. You had an opportunity for a plea deal that would have kept you out of prison. You refused it. Why? Marcus cleared his throat. Your Honor, I refused the deal because taking it would have meant minimizing what I did. It would have meant saying I made a mistake instead of admitting I committed a crime. I stole from my mother. I lied to her. I allowed my wife to try to destroy her reputation. And I did all of it while my mother was grieving my father, while she was vulnerable, while she trusted me. His voice broke. I don't deserve a deal. I deserve whatever punishment you think is appropriate. The judge looked at him for a long moment. Mrs. Williams, would you like to make a statement before sentencing? Patricia nodded at me. I stood up, my legs steadier than I expected. Your Honor, I've thought a lot about what I wanted to say today. I've been angry. I've been hurt. I've been betrayed by the person I loved most in this world. I looked at Marcus. But I've also been thinking about what justice really means. My son took $32,000 from me. He took my security. He took my peace of mind. But what he really took was my trust. And that's something that can't be paid back in dollars. I paused, gathering my thoughts. I don't want revenge. I never did. What I wanted was for my son to understand what he did, to truly understand the weight of his actions. And I think, finally, he does. The judge leaned forward. Are you asking for leniency, Mrs. Williams? I'm asking for justice, Your Honor, real justice, not the kind that makes me feel better temporarily, but the kind that actually changes a person. My son needs to face consequences. He needs to make restitution. But more than that, he needs to become the kind of man who would never do this again, to anyone. The judge nodded slowly. Thank you, Mrs. Williams. You may be seated. He turned to Marcus. Mr. Williams, I reviewed the evidence in this case, the amount stolen, the length of time over which the theft occurred, the vulnerability of the victim, the attempted cover-up. By all standard sentencing guidelines, you should be looking at significant prison time. Marcus's lawyer started to object, but Marcus put a hand on his arm, stopping him. However, the judge continued, I've also considered your acceptance of responsibility, your guilty plea, your mother's testimony, and the fact that you've already begun making restitution from your own employment. Therefore, I'm sentencing you as follows: 5 years in prison, suspended to 3 years of supervised probation. During that probation, you will perform 1,000 hours of community service, specifically working with organizations that protect elderly citizens from financial abuse. You will make full restitution of $32,400 to your mother, plus 20% interest, to be paid in monthly installments. You will attend counseling, and you will have no contact with your mother unless she initiates it. Marcus's knees buckled slightly. No prison time. A chance to rebuild his life. Mr. Williams, understand this. You are getting one opportunity to prove that your remorse is genuine. If you violate the terms of this probation in any way, you will serve the full 5 years in prison. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. Don't thank me, thank your mother. If she had asked for the maximum sentence, I would have given it to her. Then the judge turned to Keisha. Her case was more complicated because she had continued to claim innocence, continued to blame Marcus, continued to insist she'd been manipulated. The judge wasn't buying it. Mrs. Williams, unlike your soon-to-be ex-husband, you have shown no remorse, no acceptance of responsibility, and no understanding of the severity of what you participated in. Therefore, I'm sentencing you to 18 months in prison, followed by 2 years of probation. You will also pay restitution jointly with Mr. Williams, and you will be prohibited from any contact with Mrs. Renate Williams for a period of 10 years. Keisha's mouth fell open. Your Honor, that's not fair. I didn't. You are dismissed, Mrs. Williams. Officers, please take her into custody. I watched as they led Keisha out in handcuffs, her lawyer protesting the whole way. She looked back at Marcus once, her face full of venom, and I understood in that moment that she'd never loved him. She'd loved what he could give her, and when he couldn't give her anymore, she turned on him like a snake. Marcus didn't watch her go. He was looking at me. After the hearing in the courthouse hallway, Marcus approached me carefully, like I was a wild animal that might bolt. Mama, I just wanted to say. I know, I said quietly. I know. Is there any way? He couldn't finish the question. You heard the judge. No contact unless I initiated. Right, I wanted you to know I'm going to do everything he said. The community service, the restitution, the counseling, all of it. Not because I have to, but because I want to be the man you raised me to be. Then do it, I said. Don't tell me. Show me. He nodded, his eyes shining with tears. I will. I promise. I left him standing there and walked out into the September sunshine with Jerome and Patricia. We stood on the courthouse steps, and I took a deep breath. The first truly free breath I'd taken in 3 years. How do you feel? Patricia asked. Lighter, I said. Like I've been carrying something heavy for so long I forgot what it felt like to stand up straight. That night, Aurora came over with sweet potato pie, like she always did when something significant happened. We sat on my porch, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. So what now? She asked. Now I live, really live. Not just survive, not just exist. I'm 71 years old, Aurora. I've spent the last 3 years of my life fighting. Maybe it's time to start enjoying. What does that look like?
I thought about it. I don't know yet. Maybe I'll travel. See some of the places Raymond and I always talked about. Maybe I'll volunteer at the school. They're always looking for reading tutors. Maybe I'll just sit on this porch every evening and watch the sunset. The point is, it's my choice now. Nobody's taking that from me. Over the next few months, I started getting checks from Marcus. Everyone came with a short note. Mama, this is $600 toward what I owe you. I'm working 2 jobs now. I'm in counseling. I'm learning what it means to be accountable. I didn't respond to the notes, but I cashed the checks and put the money in a special account I'd opened. I wasn't saving it for me. I was saving it for something Raymond would have approved of. 1 year after the sentencing, I used that money, plus some of my own, to establish a small scholarship fund at Marcus's old high school. The Renate and Raymond Williams Scholarship, for students who showed academic promise but came from difficult family situations. Students who needed someone to believe in them. The first recipient was a young black girl named Destiny. She came to my house to thank me, nervous and sweet, holding a bouquet of dandelions her little brother had picked. "Mrs. Williams, this scholarship means everything to me," she said. "My mama works 3 jobs, and we still barely make it. I didn't think college was possible." "Now it is," I told her. "But I need you to promise me something. Anything. When you're successful, when you have resources of your own, remember how this felt. Remember who helped you, and help someone else." She promised she would. Marcus called me on Christmas Eve. It was the first time I'd heard from him in months, apart from the notes with the checks. "Mama, I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I wanted to wish you Merry Christmas and to tell you I heard about the scholarship fund, what you did with my restitution money." His voice was thick. "That's exactly what Dad would have wanted." "I know," I said softly. "Mama, do you think you could forgive me?" I looked at the Christmas tree Aurora had helped me put up, at the lights twinkling in the window, at the life I'd rebuilt for myself after everything fell apart. "I'm working on it," I said finally. "That's the best I can give you right now." "That's enough. That's more than enough." After I hung up, I sat in Raymond's chair and thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the fight, the victory, the hollow feeling that came with winning a battle against your own child. And I realized something. Justice isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about transformation. Marcus was becoming a better man because of what happened, not in spite of it. And I was becoming a stronger woman. Was I healed? No. Would I ever fully trust Marcus again? Probably not. But I was free. Free from being taken advantage of. Free from being seen as weak. Free from the burden of carrying other people's choices. 3 years ago, my daughter-in-law's voice had echoed through the phone, demanding money, expecting me to be grateful for being used. Now when I looked at my phone, I saw messages from Aurora, from Jerome, from the students I tutored at the library, from my church group. I saw a life full of people who valued me for who I was, not what I could give them. I had helped special people, just like I'd told Keisha. But I'd learned that special doesn't mean family by blood. Special means people who see you, respect you, value you, love you the right way. And in the end, that's what mattered most.